Comic books suck. And I don't mean in the they made Robin and Superman gay, so now I hate the entire industry for ruining my beloved characters that I've grown up with since in the womb. Both of whom were right there with me when my mother pushed me out of her way. I mean it in the how the fuck do I start reading about Superman? And why does every time I Google where to start reading, it always leads me to the 1980s? Anyway, it's Pink something. How are you? Now, if you're a smart person, you probably never picked up a comic book in your life. If you are a loser, you probably still know what I'm talking about because Marvel achieved world domination and DC dick ride for like a year or two. But we're not here to talk about the damn movies. We're here to talk about why the fuck I can't read a goddamn Superman comic in 2024 without having to go back to 20 different series to understand what the fuck is happening. Okay, let's take a hands-on approach if you still can't understand what the hell I just said. So, the year is 2022. The Batman movie just came out. Robert Pattinson proved again that he's a good actor and that Twilight was just a phase. And Zoe Kravitz became the light-skinned baddie of the year. We don't talk about the Oscars. It seemed DC finally got a win. Now imagine you're sitting there, a smart person who just walked out of the Batman movie and who's now interested in the world of Batman. You know the basic stuff, like Batman is Bruce Wayne. His parents are dead. That pearl necklace. He has a butler named Alfred. An orphan in a red, green, and yellow suit named Robin. Harley Quinn's ass. Now you want to know more. You want to read the comics. There are two paths you can take. Google local comic book shops and let the underpaid cashier tell you everything about Batman and where to start. Walk out the shop with a couple of comics and get to reading. Or Google where to start reading Batman on one of the multiple sites dedicated to telling you where to start reading Batman and decide which one you want to start with. Next, pirate. To save time, let's say you decide to start reading about Nightwing. Boy Wonder, the first ever Robin and everyone's favorite. The perfect character to begin with. Now, where are you going to start? Oh, maybe the new Nightwing series by Tom Taylor and artist Lucas. The artwork is amazing and there are tons of terrific reviews on Amazon and Twitter. Oh, who's Barbara Gordon? Oh, well, that's easy actually. She's Batgirl. But not really actually because the Joker shot her and why isn't she Batgirl? Well, we don't really talk about it, but like she got shot by Joker, but they kind of like reconned it so now she can walk because of like technology and Alfred's dead. Oh yeah, a while back, Bane actually cracked his neck in front of Damian Wayne. Oh, who's Damian Wayne? Oh, well, he's the son of Batman, Charlie Al... You don't know who Charlie Al Ghul is. That doesn't matter because we're reading about Nightwing. And who's Rick? Anyway, the point is it's nearly impossible to jump into comics. Yes, there are plenty of tutorials and guides on where to start reading and which comic runs are the best, but for people who want a nice linear story, comics are anything but that. And if you do find a story with a semi-linear storyline that gives basic info on important characters, you're still going to face a random character being introduced who somehow has a major connection to the main character. And instead of giving you any info, they'll just have a comic book name and issue at the top of the page telling you where to go to find out all about this character and how they met. What a nice plug-in. This random ass character will now have an entire arc surrounding them and the relationship you will never know about unless you go check out that nice little plug-in at the top. And don't even get me started on crossovers. Now, in these crossovers, you're likely going to get a cute interaction between two characters that you like. They'll talk about their emotions, recap, eat, fight crime, etc. For example, in the new Superman, Nightwing makes an appearance. They do everything I just said. Cool. What isn't cool is when they go back to their respective comic book runs and now they are hinting at a crossover collab without giving anything. And that stupid plugin is at the top of the page again. And don't get me started on recons. Now, most comic fans will tell you to just pick a comic you think has good art and start there, which is fair. It's what I did. And actually, this leads me to my next point. The art. Have you ever been on Instagram or seen a nice art piece made by a popular artist and you start following them because their art rocks and you love it? Now, 2 weeks later, their entire art is going to change. It's like going from the Avatar The Last Airbender art style to Gravity Falls art style. Entirely different. Now, I admit this is a pet peeve. Unnecessary bitching at its finest. Most comic books have a variety of different artists. They keep the writer for the series, but the artist can be changed multiple times throughout the run of the series. And oh boy, they change a lot. Now, before I start shitting on these people for existing, I shall acknowledge that there are reasons why artists don't stick around long for comic books. Reason one, only some can publish a comic every month. It takes a lot of work. And second, artists have bills. And by bills, I mean Photoshop. These artists usually can only sign up for a certain amount of issues. And when that's over, they bounce. And in addition, not everyone is only working on one comic a month. Most of these artists have other projects that they're doing, other comics, maybe video games, TV shows, etc. They have other obligations, and waiting on a writer to complete what they're doing only so you can then complete what you're doing, that takes a lot of time, and not everyone has time for that. And lastly, some editors or writers want different artists over time. Some artists will not mix well with the writer, and some artists do not want to draw for the same comic for the next 2 years. And I admit, this is mainly a DC Marvel issue. A lot of other comic companies only have one main artist who draws for the entire series. And it doesn't seem to be that big of an issue if Marvel and DC continue to do this and they haven't changed this, even though it's been going on for a long time. However, it's still annoying. One moment the art is realism and the next is a cartoon style. It ruins the vibe and it ruins the immersion of the comic. And it can be extremely off-putting for some readers who were invested in the comic and who are just now starting off reading comics. Obviously, a lot of people get over this because comics have a big fandom who are used to and understand why. However, for newcomers, this can be extremely off-putting and annoying. In addition, some readers aren't going to buy specific comics when the art style change. Sometimes they won't buy it because now they don't really like the art and it's not what they vibe with, and some people might even drop the series altogether. And actually, this comes on to my last reason. My comics suck ass, and that's because they're stagnant as fuck. Batman. Since for some reason I'm dick riding Batman today. He was created in 1939. The year is currently 2024. For 8 decades, he has been one of the main characters for DC Comics. He is also one of the top 3 characters for DC. And do you know what happens when multiple people are writing about the same character for 8 decades? Mayhem. Total mayhem. You get Batman, the human billionaire whose entire character architecture should be about him being human, using his human brain, his human technology to take down these impossibly strong alien to goddess villains and superheroes and taking them down using the human way. You have him now fist fighting the cosmic mommy goddess while he's in leather, being called the Batman who laughs, and for some reason he has an army of orphan children. These people do not need to write about the same character repeatedly. Most of these writers are trapped under the baggage of the history of these already established characters. And you can tell that they're itching to throw in their creative juices because they do throw in their creative juices and people start hating it. And then you know who else hates it? Another writer who hates what the other writer did. And now 3 years down the line, they're going to change everything that the other writer has done. It creates an inconsistent, stagnant mess that gets annoying over time. For example, recently, one of the Robins, Tim Drake, was made by in recent comic books. And people hated it. It was in the news, Twitter, Instagram, fucking Twitter was bitching everywhere because they changed their beloved character. A beloved character that has had a long history of exclusively dating females. Were those same people calling him Dick Grayson? Yes, they were. Now, of course, there were a lot of people who loved the change. Many people of the LGBTQ community loved it, and they felt included in her. The comic was well received, and other writers have included Tim being bi. However, this still shows that these people want to bring their spin to these already established characters and modernize them to fit this day's generation, which is a good thing because things that happened in the 1930s most of the time isn't going to interest people who are born and raised in the 2000s. It just doesn't work like that. However, they're writing about the same exact characters. There's only so much you can do with a character whose entire personality has already been established. Their relationships have already been established. Their children have already been established. The place they live, established. Their goals, established. There is only so much you can do with this without pissing off people. And for example, Superman isn't supposed to kill. Batman wouldn't be his kids. Why was John Kent randomly aged up? Why is Jonathan the Green Lantern of the group? It should have been Hal Jordan. Starfire has curly hair, not straight hair. Why is she black in this? Jason Todd was not part of the Teen Titans, so why is he replacing Dick Grayson? It's a mess. People hate it when you change things, and these writers want to change things. Who the hell wants to write about Superman fighting Lex Luthor for their 100th time? And yes, this is mainly a DC Marvel issue. If you were to step out of these companies for 5 seconds, you would find thousands of other comics with more variety and more freedom. For example, Something is Killing the Children, a popular comic book written by James, who is published under the Boom Studios. And Boom Studios is the only other comic studio out there. IDW Publishing, Action Lab Comics, etc. Naming all of them would be a video in itself. Also, many people are self-publishing their own comics these days. You could just go on Amazon and look up the word comics and find millions of self-published comics up there by artists who aren't under publishing houses but are still creating amazing comics. So why have I been yapping and bitching about comics when all I had to do is broaden my horizon? I hate to say this, but it's because of this thing called manga. If you don't know what manga is, it's basically Japanese comic books. It's like Western comic books, but better in every way. And I don't mean that Japanese people are better writers and better artists. No, the industry itself is better. Unlike comic books, most time the writer is also the artist. Yes, some of them will have teams who are helping them with the art, the inking, and help setting it up. But that usually depends on the popularity and demand. Most of the times, the writer is usually the main artist. And while some mangas are crap and others are some of the best pieces of literature known to man, the same thing is with Western comics. Some are absolute dog shit, while others are the best literature known to man. Now, here's the difference. Instead of the monthly wait, most mangas are updated in a week. Unhealthy as fuck, but it keeps people's attention way more than once a month does. In addition, since the art style is done by mainly one person over the entire series, you'll get the privilege to watch the artists evolve their art the longer the series goes, making the reader more attached and familiar with the art style. Furthermore, each manga is an entirely different story. None of them cross over unless they have the same author, and they don't worry about the people getting hero burnout because of how diverse manga is. Unlike Marvel and DC, whose entire cast of characters all live in the same universe and are all either heroes or villains, all manga have nothing to do with each other. One story could be about a slime becoming super OP, while another manga could be about high school children getting naked whenever they eat food. See, variety. More people are going to flock to manga due to how diverse and different each story can be, something the top Western comics are lacking. And lastly, anime. There is a high chance that your favorite manga is going to become an anime. Either a 12 or 24 episode series where all your favorite characters will now be in color, with voice, a cool opening and ending song, and the community potentially growing. As long as the manga isn't a complete flop, there's a potential to see a huge return on being invested. This rarely happens with Western comics, like ever. The only ones this mainly happens with are Marvel and DC. Marvel, who had a huge success running their superhero universe, is currently on fire. People are tired of superheroes and could care less about all the new comic heroes being introduced. And DC? I don't fucking want to talk about the dumpster fire that is currently DC. And those indie comics I was talking about? Yeah, 99% of them will never get an animated or live action adaptation in this lifetime. Unless they are insanely popular with an already established fan base, there is no way they are getting a show or a movie. It's just not happening. And on the off chance that they do, there's a huge chance it's going to get axed after 1 or 2 seasons, most likely ending on a cliffhanger, and it will never come back. While the Japanese industry is looking for mangas to adapt into shows, Hollywood isn't. They'd rather reboot shows that end in the 2000s than give an unpopular monthly comic a chance. Now that I've done ranting, people should still read comics. While stupid, unreliable, terrible, and inconsistent art style is still fun to read. Does it piss me off that Starfire hasn't had a consistent skin color since forever? How the fuck do you mess up the color orange? I still love seeing a favorite character interact with my other fave characters. Watching her in the Teen Titans, the Justice League, then the Teen Titans, and then back to the Justice League, and then the Outlaw series we don't talk about, back to the Justice League, back to the Teen Titans. Ugh. Never mind, I'm getting pissed just thinking about this.